Testing. Tab. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today I come to you with a question. What do you get when you place a black Christian rapper Lecrae in the same room with an overly apologetic white male Christian Dan Cathy, who, by the way, is Chick-fil-A CEO, and also a white male Christian megachurch pastor, and Louis Giglio, and have them discuss race? What do you get? You get cringe. That's what you get. You get absolute, total cringe. And what we're going to do in this video is watch some of that cringe. Oh yeah, you got to see it, because you know why? It underlines a point that I make about all these race talks and how it's just really weird and awkward and uncomfortable and not necessary. And ultimately, in my humble opinion, unproductive. So what we're going to do first is watch what Louis Giglio said to Lecrae. Then we're going to see what Dan Cathy did to Lecrae. And then we're going to see Lecrae's response to everything that was going on. After we get done watching all of that cringe, I'll come back. I'll give you my 2 cents, my deep, detailed analysis, and then I'll wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Yeah, Lecrae, it's interesting because I feel like on the inside of the church, we're fighting this historical context you talk about. In other words, we love the blessing of the cross, but we don't love to sit in it and realize this is what God's asking me to do, to die to myself and to live for him, whatever context that's going to look like for me. But I want to flip that upside down because I think the other side of it is true with our nation's history. We understand the curse that was slavery, white people do, and we say that was bad. But we miss the blessing of slavery, that it actually built up the framework for the world that white people live in and lived in. And so a lot of people call this white privilege, and when you say those two words, it just is like a fuse goes off for a lot of white people because they don't want somebody telling them to check their privilege. And so I know that you and I both have struggled in these days with, hey, if the phrase is the trip up, let's get over the phrase and let's get down to the heart.
Sure.
Let's get down to what then do you want to call it. And I think maybe a great thing for me is to call it white blessing.
And I'd like to share, I know we're starting to get into some of our closing moments here, but a story that was shared with me by a dear friend who shared with me about a revival that was taking place in a church in Texas. And at that revival on the front seat was an older African-American man that was sitting there. And this young man got up that was there in that service, and he'd been so gripped with conviction about the racism that was in that local community in a small town in Texas that he took a shoe brush and he walked over to this elderly gentleman and he knelt on his knees and began to shine his shoes. And tears began to flow in that service. It was an attitude of conviction. So I invite folks just to put some words to action here. And if we need to find somebody that needs to have their shoe shine, we need to just go right on over and shine their shoes. And whether they got tennis shoes on or not, maybe they got sandals on, it really doesn't matter. But there's a time in which we need to have, some personal action here. Maybe we need to give him a hug too, brother.
And some stock in Chick-fil-A.
But I bought about 1,500 of these, and I gave them all our Chick-fil-A operators and staff a number of years ago. And so any expressions of a contrite heart, of a sense of humility, a sense of shame, a sense of embarrassment, beget with an apologetic heart. I think that's what our world needs to hear today.
What's up, y'all? All right, so let's talk about it. By now, everybody's seen the video with myself and Lou Giglio, and you wondering what the heck is going on. Well, first of all, let me just say this. Thank y'all. Sincerely thank y'all for y'all just acknowledging the pain and the frustration that y'all had with everything that you've seen. I know this is it's rough, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about 345 years, 400 years of chattel slavery, and then 89 years of Jim Crow, and we're battling still in 2020. So I appreciate y'all acknowledging the pain and the frustration that you had with what you said. It's helped me process a lot as well. First of all, I wasn't okay with it, even as I sat
with
there.
an eye towards doing it effectively, but also keeping it very budget conscious. Approach you take, you need. Let's talk about the 4 inputs to the grid for panic. Hit camera 1. A common place to put this camera is in the center back of your room. It could be right in your tech booth, maybe even right next to your Mini. But I'm starting to actually prefer this shot to be a side shot where the stage is on one side of the frame and the congregation is on the other. I've just been liking the way this shot feels, and I think it gives a better sense of the room and therefore a better use of a static wide establishing shot. For my second camera, I'm going to have that be my close follow shot that is manned by an operator. This camera will be what I use to get close-ups and follow the speaker if they walk around on stage. This would be a good camera to invest a little more money in and possibly get controls for the zoom and focus for the operator to use on their handles. The Canon G21 would work well. Also, let me just say it's really important to invest in a nice fluid head for the tripod. I've got some links to a few suggestions for those down in the description of this video. A good tripod is something to invest in. It potentially is going to outlast your camera several times over and be with you for a long time, and it makes a huge difference in the stability of your shots. For the third camera, I'm going to use a PTZ camera. I've got the PTZ Optics 30X NDI camera, but you could use the 12X model depending on the distance to your stage. I'm going to position that right next to my manned camera in the center back of the room. You can control the PTZ Optics camera right here in OBS with an additional plugin that you install. And I also have a video about how to control them using an Elgato Stream Deck. I'm going to have these two cameras operating in two different modes, for lack of a better term. One for worship and singing, where the pace of my shots will be a little quicker, and then a second mode when someone is speaking and I want to follow them closely. In the first mode, for faster paced stuff, I'm going to have my PTZ camera on whoever the lead singer is for a song, and I can program memory presets for those locations into the camera. Then I'll have the manned camera picking up special interest shots, close-ups of the PTZ cameras. 3 could be located and to set the vast majority of the converter. Then run the distance from your camera to the switcher with an SD. I've tested 100 times already here on my channel. Here's my answer, and it might not be popular. Points in and an aux output that you'll already be using.
On the panel are dedicated to adjusting audio levels. These buttons here allow you to change the level of your embedded audio. About the Mini is its carbon fiber build, which gives it a nice weight and feel. The Mini has 4 HDMI inputs for cameras, computers, or media players. A USB-C port outputs a 1080 HD webcam signal designed specifically for live streaming. This is perfect for YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitch, and even Skype. When your A10 Mini is plugged in for USB-C, it will be recognized by your computer as a webcam. Then, when you go to set up your stream, like on YouTube, all you need to do is select the A10 Mini in your stream settings. This port also lets you connect to the A10 software controller. If you want to connect your Mini to a network to access the application, you can use the Ethernet port. This is also essential if you need to communicate with Blackmagic Hyperdecks. The HDMI output is an aux output. You can select the preview, program, or ISO camera sources. The Mini also has two 3.5mm microphone inputs. Okay, so let's connect a couple video sources to the A10 Mini so you can see how it works. The top surface is thoughtfully laid out with backlit rubber keys that allow you to access your essential features. On the bottom you have your 4 source buttons, one being this overhead shot that we have right now, and 2 is the A10 software control, which is running on my laptop. You also have still, black, and then to the right cut, auto, and FTV, which of course means fade to black. Above the cut button you have your transition duration buttons, so point off your embedded option. Buttons to adjust your microphone input levels as well. You can turn those on and off directly on the panel. In the A10 software control, you have 3 main tabs that let you run your production virtually. The switcher, which is obviously here. You also have the media pool, and you have your full audio mixer. There are a couple places inside the A10 software control where you can adjust settings. If you go up to the top, you can access the preferences menu. Here you can change the IP address of your panel, and you can also switch transition control from Program Preview to AV Direct. If you want to adjust the mapping of your switcher, you can. For instance, if I go to button 4, I can switch that to actually control input 1 on my switcher. On the bottom left is the settings menu. Here you can change your video standard. Right now I have mine set to 1080p 2997, but you can change it from 1080p 23.98 all the way up to 1080p 60. can also change the labels that appear on your ATEM software control application. Here's where you can set up communication with any available hyperdecks. So if you have a hyperdeck connected to the same network as your computer and your ATEM Mini, all you have to do is enter the IP address of your hyperdeck, hit connect, and you can now communicate with that hyperdeck. So if you go over here to Media Player, you can remotely control your hyperdeck, so you can stop and start recording and adjust your playback settings as well. The top bar is also where you can access your macros menu and where you can choose your source for your HDMI output. You can select between all of your ISO camera sources, program, and preview. The switcher, unlike the surface of the ATEM Mini, has full program and preview banks and has a T-bar that allows you to transition your video. The media player page gives you slots for loading 20 different stills. These can be full-size JPEGs, like title screens, which I have here, or PNGs like bugs and lower thirds. If you have a title screen or image loaded into the media player, like I have here, I can use the still button on my A10 panel. I can also use an effect if I want the transition to be a little bit more interesting. If you have a bug or lower third that you want to overlay on your program, you need to use the downstream key. I can go back over to the switcher tab and select downstream key under the palettes. I want media player 1 to be loaded in my fill source and my key source to be media player 1 key. Now if I go over to the DSK section here, all I have to hit is the auto button and it will bring my lower third onto the screen. I can hit auto again to remove it. Under the palette tab, you can also do a number of other great functions. You can, but I'll bring up functions. You can use the color generator and adjust your, and you have the palette tab is also circle. The DV is where you can adjust picture in pictures. So change my fill source to camera 1, which is my overhead shot. And then if I go back over to the key and hit on air, you can see that I have the picture-in-picture up on the screen. And I can adjust the size of my picture-in-picture. And I can also change the location of it as well. If I want to key out a green screen, I'll use chroma key. The fill source is going to be your shot as your green screen. You can select the color of your green screen by going down to chroma sample. This box represents your shot, and you can move this little cursor around to find the color of your green screen. You can then make key adjustments, chroma correction, color adjustments. You can add a garbage mask or a flying key. And all you would have to do is then go on air with the upstream key, and you will have a keyed out green screen. The last section of the ATEM software control is the audio tab. This is a full mixer that includes all of your embedded audio sources, your 2 microphone inputs, and you have a master fader here which allows you to make adjustments at all of your levels. You can even adjust your headphone level at the bottom. If I wanted to toggle on my embedded audio through camera 1, all I would have to do is hit the on button, and then on the A10 Mini panel, I can raise or lower the audio level using the buttons right on the front. If I want to do audio follow video, I can hit the AFB button. I can also toggle the channel off if I don't want it to be in my mix. Finally, it's important to know what macros are and how to use them. Macros are completely customizable presets that can make a simple or complex sequence of commands on your switcher automated with the push of a button. Just as an example, if I hit this button here, I have told the ATEM switcher to scroll through all of the preview sources and then switch to our main camera and then back. This is a fairly simple macro switcher automated with the push of a button. Just as an example, if I hit this
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, so if we go
your sessions live streamed and sort of more educational oriented things. So it's really mainly me talking, and then I will also sometimes show an overhead camera to demonstrate various product things in my live streams. And also in the content sessions live streamed and sort of more educational oriented things. So it's really mainly me talking, and then I just kind of run through in my live streams. And we'll go ahead and put a link for that down below. Now, in my case, I'm mostly doing kind of question and answer sessions live streamed and sort of more educational oriented things. So it's really mainly me talking, and then I will also sometimes show an overhead camera to demonstrate various product things in my live stream, or live stream 200, or some sort of capture card. And those come in a variety of different options. I'm actually using something that's a combined, gives me lots of options. Now, you can also do that with individual
being the setup and configuration video cable into here, and of course the USB port into here. And then over on the laptop you can see I've already got the network port plugged in, and I've just plugged in the USB port into there as well. Now that those are both plugged in, I can open up the ATEM setup software and I'll show you how to set the IP up. So here's the ATEM setup software. It's got a little icon here showing you that Ethernet is plugged in and also that USB is plugged in, and then it can see the ATEM on both of those. There's also this button here which opens up the preferences, and finally this one here that opens up the ATEM control software. I'm going to launch the preferences first of all. Now in here you can see we've got the IP address of the ATEM Mini, the gate